I'm Dr. Christi Doherty, and I'm excited to celebrate Women's History Month with a series of conversations with influential women leaders in our organization. We'll chat about their career journeys, how they balance work and life, and the ways they make time for self care. It's a great way to hear their stories, get inspired, and recognize the incredible impact of women in healthcare and education. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Dr. Maria Ojeda. She is our Director of Nursing Research here at Kaplan. And thank you for joining me today, Maria.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. My first question for you, Maria, is just to tell me a little bit about yourself and about your healthcare journey.
Okay. Well, I'm the Director of Nursing Research here at Kaplan, and essentially I do all things that have to do with nursing research. So from developing ideas, working with our partners, and as well as other Kaplan associates to develop ideas for research on our products, as well as other things that might be of interest to our partners. And we go not only from the idea development to actually implementing the study, analyzing the results, and hopefully publication or some type of dissemination.
Awesome. That's a lot of work.
Oh, yes. But I really enjoy it. I've been in research for a very long time. I've been involved in research for over probably 25 years now in one way or another. Um, uh, Almost near the beginning of my journey as a nurse, which was a long time ago. And I think it would be kind of interesting to tell you a little bit about that.
Yes, please.
Um, yes, I didn't start off in nursing. I started off, I went and received a bachelor's degree in psychology. And once I did that, I knew that I wanted to further my education. I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with psychology or go into another field. I knew I was interested in healthcare in one way or another, whether it was mental health or, physiological, etc. And what I decided to do was go into public health. So I have a master's degree in public health, in epidemiology specifically. And while I was in that program, I realized I don't have any clinical background. So how am I supposed to be a good public health worker, right? If I don't know anything about the clinical side of it. And so that's when I decided that I wanted to go into nursing. So in my last semester of my master's in public health program, I started a graduate entry nursing program at the same time,
Oh, my
which,
goodness. That's a lot of
yes,
work.
it was crazy. It was crazy, but you're young, you got all that energy going. So I finished my final paper for my master's degree in public health while I started my first semester in this graduate entry program. And in that program, I received my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in nursing as a family nurse practitioner at the same time. So that was really tough, but a very rewarding experience. Luckily, I had a husband who is very, very supportive of me. So, it wasn't too bad. So once I finished that, I went out into the workplace. I've worked as a clinical RN in med surg as well as critical care. And then I've also worked as a family nurse practitioner because I am a certified family nurse practitioner in occupational health, employee health, geriatrics. I used to do house calls as well as I've done OBGYN, just everything that you can imagine that you could do as a primary care nurse practitioner, I've done. And after a few years of that, I decided to come back and get my doctorate. So I searched and searched for a program where I could get my DNP and PhD at the same time because I really wanted to do research, but I knew that the FNP license was going towards that DNP degree as well. So I did find one, and by then I had my daughter. She was only 4. And I had a very, of course, I have a very supportive husband, because when I was typing away on my dissertation on the weekends, which is what I did pretty much all day for years, it took me 6 years to get through that program. He would take her out and entertain her so that mommy would have time to work on this. So as you can see, I kind of, um, I like to keep busy, and self-care, I would love to say it was my priority, but it wasn't sometimes. Um, but I think now that that whole part of my life is over with, and I still have this role where it is demanding, and you have to, you do get tired thinking all day long.
Yeah.
I have found that for me, doing things like getting involved in crafting, um, that is something that I can focus on, and just everything else goes away when I do that. One of the things I do is cross stitching, so you have to pay very close attention to that needle and thread. So that is something that really helps to kind of melt away some of the stress for me. Another thing I do is I read for pleasure instead of for knowledge. I've spent most of my life reading for knowledge, and I'm kind
Finally
of
get a break to try something fun, right?
right,
So what do
right.
you like to read? What's your favorite thing to read?
Well, it's kind of funny. I love horror,
Oh,
because horror, to me, it's an escape. I know it's not real, you know?
right.
And I especially, of course, love the work of Stephen King, because his prose is so good. He makes you believe it temporarily, because the way he writes, it's like a real person would speak, and a real person would think, and yet you have all this other supernatural stuff going on,
Right.
which is the which is the part that kind of takes you away. So I do enjoy that. And one of the things I'm trying to do is read some of the classics I haven't read. So ever since high school, I've kind of had to, leave that behind and not really pay much attention to it. So I'm going back and trying to read some of those as well. And I really enjoy that too. So those are some of my escapes. Uh, Another thing I do for self-care is I don't do social media. I don't do that because I've found there's so much vitriol sometimes and negative stuff going on there that it's not good for me. And so I stay away from that.
Probably frees up a lot of time because
That
you're not doing
too.
the scrolling.
That too. Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. I want to circle back to what you said about your husband being supportive. I think family support is so critical, whether
Oh,
you're
yes.
in just trying to get a degree, and certainly as a nurse, because nursing is one of those different careers where sometimes even when you want to leave it at work, you bring it home.
Oh,
And
yes.
so, I mean, it's nice to hear that he was supportive for you for that. And what does your daughter think about your career?
Oh, she's very proud of me, of all the accomplishments that I've had. She's seen how difficult it can be sometimes being out there in the clinical setting, and you do bring it home. You have that day that just doesn't go well for you, and you cry and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why? Every nurse has done that. But then you come back and you realize, I know why I'm doing it. I love taking care of people. I want to make them better. And this is life, Life has its very happy and positive moments, and it has its ups and downs. You just gotta go with the flow and get through them. So she doesn't want to go into people care, but she wants to go into animal care.
Oh,
So I
okay.
guess so she's kind of inherited that from me, wanting to care about living things. And she thinks that she wants to go the way of becoming a vet.
Oh, nice. Good for her.
Yes.
What a good career goal. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it sounds like you've had a lot of motivation in your life. You've internally been able to motivate yourself, all your degrees, all the work that you've done with a 4-year-old daughter, getting that, moving through your nursing career from practice to research. So, what are some big challenges if there's someone listening to you today who really wants to aspire to be where you're at and in your type of position with a woman in leadership, what advice would you give them?
Um, Perseverance, right? Just keep plugging at it. Just keep going. Don't give up. I had several people that I started, for example, my doctoral program with, and they dropped out, and they were smart. They had experience, but they just, when they were challenged, they gave up. Don't give up.
Mm.
Be stubborn. Keep going. If you really want that, you have to be that way, because things are not gonna come easy. That's one thing I have learned in life, at least to me, nothing's come easily. It's just been that I've said, if they can do it, I can do it, you know? And I'm just going to keep going until I get what, to my goal. So that's what I would give them. That's a type of advice.
You can you share any of the challenges and how you've overcome them in your career?
Well, it's interesting because my family, they're immigrants, right? And when you're an immigrant, the focus is on survival, day-to-day survival. It's not about these kind of long-term goals. So I kind of grew up with mixed messages. Like, education is important, but go to work, you know, do something, and go to work. So to me, that was one of the biggest challenges, being that person that said, I'm going to work and I'm going to get my education, because I know how important education is, and yet I'm not one of those folks that can just go get an education. I have to be able to do more than that at the same time. So if that was a challenge, I always had to either work part-time or full-time through every single degree that I've had, and mostly full-time. Mostly full-time. So
That's probably where you weren't juggling work and life balance as well as you could have, right?
probably, especially, after you get married, because I've been on this journey for a long time, since before I was married, with all the degrees I have from my bachelor's degree, etc. After you get married, you have other responsibilities, not just to yourself. And so that made it a little bit tougher, and there were nights, where I was staying up all night because I didn't have time during the day to to study, but I did it anyway. So yeah, before then, you're younger, you've got you do your own thing, and then yeah, I had more work-life balance. I would go to the gym and hang out with some friends, but that kind of stuff didn't, wasn't that didn't happen as often after you get married, you have a child and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've actually shown a lot of motivation, perseverance, exactly what you were describing. And you've really made an impact in a bunch of different ways in the clinical practice and in the research that we're doing for Kaplan now. Any final thoughts for those listening that really want to find that balance, be successful, be influential? What could you share? Else could you share with them?
The only other thing I would say is be organized. Try to be organized and make the time. Actually, get yourself a calendar and say, I'm going to take this time for self-care, doing whatever it is that you like to do. And as well as with your studies, if you have the kind of life where you can only get an hour in a day, find that time, whether it's in the morning when you first get up or right after your kids go to bed. Just schedule yourself. I know it sounds like a boring piece of advice, but I think that we tend to forget to take care of ourselves or to get that important thing done if we don't realize that there's only 24 hours in a day, and hopefully only 12 or 14 of them you're awake. You have to sleep, right? And scheduling is important.
Good advice. Good advice. Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate your time and sharing your insights with those that are listening to us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.